Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So far today on this very important historic hearing, we've listened to Democrats complain that Republicans have done nothing to stop the border security crisis, pretending that we didn't pass H.R. 2, the strongest border bill that has ever been passed in Congress. All of our Democrat colleagues voted no to that bill. My Democrat colleagues today are complaining that they need more money. Well, it seems to be from listening on this committee most of the time, they want more money to help more migrants come into the country. It's unfortunate that it's about migrants. It should be about Americans. I've also listened to them talk about impeachment. Talking about impeachment, saying that impeachment is not the right thing to do when it comes to Secretary Mayorkas complaining about impeachment hearings. But I'd like to remind everyone that when they impeached President Trump, they introduced articles of impeachment on January 11th, held 0 hearings, and then passed these articles of impeachment on January 13th. Oh my, the hypocrisy. But let's talk a little bit further. Let's talk about something I heard from one of our witnesses today, saying that impeachment is needed or necessary or warranted when this person has acted in the interest of a foreign power, that's an impeachable offense. Well, let's talk about how we could argue Secretary Mayorkas has definitely acted for a foreign power. Former Special Agent for DEA's Special Operations Division testified under oath that the cartels have control over the United States southern border. The cartels, not our government, not our Border Patrol. That's a foreign power. Cartels and coyotes are making around $13 billion a year in human trafficking alone off Joe Biden's open border policies and Secretary Mayorkas's willful disobedience in his job. The revenue is 26 times more than cartels earned under President Trump. 26 times more. That would definitely be helping a foreign power. I'm sure that money's spent in countries like Mexico. That helps their economy. Cartels control approximately 40% of Mexico. The cartels do. That means that this border crisis and the laws that are being broken are definitely in the interest of a foreign power. Now, we're also hearing a debate back and forth about policy. Is it a policy difference, or is it Secretary Mayorkas's disobedience and his willfulness to break our federal laws? I ask that question because I want to know, is it the Biden administration's policy to kill 300 Americans every single day to fentanyl? Is it the Biden administration's policy that cartel members are allowed to come in our country and are released? These are unaccompanied minors. Are they allowed by the Biden administration's policy to come in the country and rape and murder young women? Is it the Biden administration's policy for nearly 100,000 unaccompanied minor children to go missing in our country? Is it the Biden administration's policy for child labor, migrant child labor, that was talked about in the New York Times? Is that the Biden administration's policy? If so, then maybe we shouldn't be having hearings on my articles of impeachment to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Maybe we should be holding articles of impeachment on the President of the United States. Is that where we're going? What do you think about that, Ms. Pearlstein? Do you think, is it a policy difference, or is it Secretary Mayorkas? Which one, Biden, Joe Biden, or Secretary Mayorkas?
My impression of the allegations that the majority has raised here is that they are entirely about policy differences with
Ms. Pearlstein, you've talked about policy in your testimony today. Policy. So that would be Joe Biden. I'm sure you voted for him for president. You've been talking about the Biden administration's policy has been the cause of all of this. So is it Joe Biden's policy, the administration's policy, or is it Secretary Mayorkas?
The Constitution, no matter which official.
Ms. Pearlstein asked you a
Prohibits
question. Is it the
impeachment on
Biden
the basis of
administration or is it Secretary Mayorkas? Not the Constitution. We're not talking about the Constitution. Is it the Biden administration's open border policies or is it Secretary Mayorkas breaking federal law? One or the other. Because the statistics are clear. Are you capable of answering that question?
I'm not sure. Those were about 4 questions.
No, it's one or the other. Biden administration, open border policies, or Secretary Mayorkas.
One or the other what? Who caused it?
That has caused 300 Americans to die every single day. These 2 women sitting next to you's daughters have been murdered. We're talking about over 100,000, nearly 100,000 unaccompanied minors missing in this country. We're talking about cartel members everywhere, the cartel controlling the southern border. We're talking about the massive increase in statistics. It's either one or the other. It's either the Biden administration's open border policies or it's Secretary Mayorkas.
Ma'am, I'm
Okay, we'll
professor of
take it.
constitutional law.
No, you can't
Okay.
point to the Constitution.
All right, so we're a little over here.
That was Marjorie Taylor Greene freaking out once again in yet another bogus Republican committee hearing. This time it was on impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary for President Biden. Now, why do Republicans want to impeach him? We have no idea. They're not specific at all. Same thing as President Biden. They want to impeach him. They just don't know what they want to impeach him over. And because they have nothing against Alejandro Mayorkas, they're just doing this to stand in the way and to just gum up the works. You have moments like this where Marjorie Taylor Greene is exposed as kind of the, imbecile that she is. Now, my only question for, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her team is like, do you think that you look like a fighter, for the people with this abrasive questioning? Because you didn't really get anything done. You didn't really accomplish anything. All that you accomplished is to show the world that you're just an angry representative, willing to be pretty abrasive and abusive towards these professional witnesses. The witness, by the way, who I thought it was just hilarious, the look on her face after having that interaction with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She just looked completely stunned. Now, big picture, what I kind of referred to earlier, Marjorie Taylor Greene is just standing in the way, gumming up the works of the whole immigration process. This whole impeachment of Mayorkas is simply to just make it harder on President Biden to deal with the immigration crisis at the border, and that's just what Republicans do. They just gum up the works and then they complain about it. It's like you're driving with somebody, they're in the back seat, they're giving you wrong directions, and then they complain that you're a terrible driver because you're lost. Like, that's what the Republican Party is. Now, it was also interesting that Marjorie Taylor Greene had this kind of moment today where she lost her temper. She was kind of on edge because later in the day, she posted to social media about the January 6th pipe bomb, saying that it was non-threatening and pointing her viewers to a thread about the bomb. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the story of the January 6th pipe bomb, well, a lot of people believe that she is the pipe bomber based on surveillance footage and comparing it to her walking through the halls of Congress. And it's kind of hard to not see it when you do see it. But it's really interesting that Marjorie Taylor Greene is posting about this. Like, why, Marjorie? Why are you posting about how this pipe bomb was non-threatening? And I don't know. I don't know if these two things have, anything to do with each other, her losing her temper and this post. Maybe she feels like the walls are closing in. And so she's been a little more testy in these committee hearings. But, we've seen time and time again that this is pretty much par for the course for Marjorie Taylor Greene, is to behave this way and act out. Now, will anything happen with Marjorie Taylor Greene, the alleged the person who some believe is the January 6th pipe bomber? Will anything come of that? We'll see.